Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishna. Here basically we are discussing one of the topic that is city creation. In city creation, basically we are discussing one of the topic that is this file basically. One of the person told that management is very dangerous stuff basically. So how everything basically managed? That basically we are seeing basically here. So one of the person told that I had taken one example. The government basically told that basically girls you are safe basically. So how government basically give the assurance that basically girls you are safe basically. So they basically created few lessons basically. For example, in Vadodara city, they given basically one of the person HIV/AIDS, and he basically done marriage to that particular girl basically who was having HIV/AIDS, and like this basically they created the lesson, and they told the government told basically government and private sector that are the business group basically that are connected with cricket also basically, then basically they sports also, each and every stuff basically they are connected. So they given the assurance public that basically see basically we have given him HIV/AIDS. So see the management, see basically how they do the management. Nowadays basically government don't play front basically. They basically keep front as a businessman basically, like Tata's, Ambani's, Adani's. They play like this basically, but they have already played because they know everything basically. What are the things going to happen in future basically? So they played. They are basically playing like this. That is private group basically are coming in front, but private group don't know anything basically about the international rules and regulation, that it might possible that entire Indian nationality basically can also become in trouble. That basically this businessman basically don't know, but the government knows that basically entire Indian nationality also basically can be in trouble by one small story basically. So they have kept businessman in front basically. They have already done this basically. So here basically we are discussing what basically. Here we are discussing nothing basically about. We are not talking about bad about the businessman, bad about the government. We are talking about the system basically. That is, the government has given one person HIV/AIDS. Why? Because they told that basically he has done bad with the girls basically. So girls basically demanded. Girls means what basically? Indian girls means who basically, that everybody knows basically who are Indian girls. God family girls, then the political family girls, then the cricket family girls, then the sports group girls, then the political groups girls, then basically the actors girls, actress basically, then basically the mafia groups girls. If mafia groups girls basically create gets any problem basically, they basically do whatever things basically they want to do because they feel that उनके बाप का है शहर. They feel like that basically. In this basically police also basically don't do anything basically because police are also basically connected with chore and police relationship is there basically. So they also basically don't do anything. This is like chore and one side is police. So police also basically don't do anything of that mafia group basically. So like this basically, here basically we are not discussing that basically. Here basically we are discussing how the things are managed, and this is one of the type basically how they do the management basically. And this everything basically, and this basically if I am giving this example, that means this everything is done basically. Whatever things basically I am discussing, everything is done basically practically, and they have implemented also. So government mostly basically might be thinking that basically in future basically it might create problem basically. So we will do one thing, we will create some private group basically and say that basically you run basically railway, you run airport, you run this city, you take this city and hire the city basically. That is basically called गोद basically. गोद में ले लो city को. Like this policy system basically they started basically because the government knows everything basically. That's why. So here basically we are discussing not that basically that government is what, Supreme Court how basically they play safely, how they basically play safely with the government keeping in front, and government basically told that basically Supreme Court and High Court basically are front keeping front us. So we will also basically do something basically. So they also kept they basically kept businessmen in front basically. So like this they are also playing safely. So like this basically the stuff basically are ongoing. So here basically thing is what basically the management basically which is ongoing basically. So they basically do the management like this basically. So they basically doing the management. Here basically we are discussing that HIV/AIDS blood cells person basically he basically got the punishment, right? Basically, by on the order of girls, basically, and HIV/AIDS basically are done by the HIV/AIDS basically it's a punishment basically that will say you can say, because humanity basically will go down, 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 down. At last, basically, he will die because nothing is going to affect basically foods he will eat. For example, if he is eating sweet, basically sweet will create poison to him. Then basically if he drinking water, then basically water will become poison to him. If he is eating vegetable, the vegetable will become poison to him, because the oxygen basically which he is getting basically that is going to come slowly. Means slowly means very slowly. Slowly means the speed will be very slow basically. That is told as basically that is connected to Hanumanji group basically. Go slowly basically. That is like that basically. So here basically we are discussing HIV/AIDS. So one of the person told that everything basically comes slowly according to the other group basically. Other groups gets everything basically on the time, but the AIDS person basically gets everything very slowly. Why? Because their body basically doesn't support anything basically. Doesn't supports anything. Even basically medicine basically doesn't gets effect to them basically. So one of the person told that this everything basically might be knowing to someone basically, right? So what they basically might be doing basically. So one of the person told that one of the person told that for the solution basically is HIV AIDS medicines. HIV AIDS medicine basically. HIV AIDS medicine basically is given to that person. But here the thing is basically how basically they will give medicine basically, because medicine is equal to physical locations. Medicines are equal to what? Physical locations. Physicals location. Physical location. Medicines are equal to physical locations. Medicines are equal to physical location. Medicines are equal to physical location. So you have to create the physical location very powerful basically. Physical location should be very powerful. So here the physical locations of HIV/AIDS must be very powerful. Very powerful. It should be very powerful. So for that basically which kind of technique basically the government use? So government told that for that basically money is also required. So how basically they will allocate the money? Because they can't basically directly allocate the money to the AIDS basically, because AIDS is one punishment basically which is given by, here basically I had taken as an example of Vadodara boy basically he got HIV/AIDS and he basically was given punishment by the Hindustani girl basically, by the Hindustani girl. So one of the person told that so the Hindustani girls basically are not supposed to know that basically that person is getting your very powerful medicines basically. For example, if he is eating vegetables, then basically he is getting very powerful antibiotic of medicines. Then basically if he is eating some medicine basically, then he is getting the very powerful medicines in the form of powerful energies. Like this basically is eating, so that basically he can think very easily, then he can basically walk very easily, he basically can, like this basically they checks also basically. The girls basically who basically has given the punishment basically they checks also basically whether he is basically walking properly, or basically he is basic, because we have damaged each and every body parts, so he is basically getting he is walking properly. That also there people are also basically there in the road basically. For example, that person is basically walking, so they basically checks Yeah, yeah, he's walking. No, 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 he's basically not walking properly. He's basically